I'm still submitting the how-to of happiness, and whether that's going to, where that's going to go, I don't know. It's interesting that since I've been a little more relaxed about allowing, I'm not getting as antsy about, gee, he hasn't responded yet, or I wonder what's going to happen here.
Uh-huh.
Once I release something, it just goes, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, it's funny, the amount of order that's available, but for the mind driving things. Expectations is a big one, and all the variations on expectations. I've watched. I remember I was in L.A. in my high rise, and I began to realize that I was borrowing 100,000 from a friend who
Mhm.
had the money. In fact, the money was in escrow, and he said as soon as it comes out of escrow, help yourself. I'd already made a deal how I'd return it.
Mhm.
That wasn't happening. Turned out the partners that were selling the business for him didn't want to sell the business because they had non-competes and non-disclosures, and they was putting him out of business. So they
Yeah.
weren't really trying to get the business sold, but there's the money sitting there for me if it would ever close. And a business partner who had a girlfriend in Brazil that was bound and determined that he was going to Brazil and not signing a deal with me.
Yeah.
And as I watched what I had moved all the way out there for, and I'm living in a $2,800 a month place, and watching this collapse or come apart, what I had to watch was also how long it took for the mind to run its course, because I had a lot of momentum behind what I was doing, and watching it fall apart didn't mean it was suddenly over. It had to
Yeah.
run its course still. I'd say 3, 4 months at
Right.
least before it
Yeah.
faded out.
Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know, I find in conversations now with other people that there's very much, there's more than the listener in me. There's an observer, but the observer isn't, it's a totally non-judgmental situation where I'm very, and patient is not the right word here. It's, it's a total acceptance of whatever the other person might be saying. Obviously, if they were saying something totally ridiculous or mean, I may comment. But other than that, it's like a watchfulness. So you're getting closer to the person who's speaking by simply being more intent. But the intention is not for gain or for manipulation or for mastery or any of those things. It's simply a sitting with. And I'm really enjoying that.
There was a time when I didn't understand the observer, you might say, because
Mhm.
in my book I have my own version of what an observer is, and the Buddhist observer or the Hindu observer, whatever it is, that neutral third party. Um, I can't think of an example right this minute, but it's become far more apparent to me as a separate component of our nature.
Mhm.
That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's as if it's something that every individual I think is capable of, but there is a discovery of that. It's an uncovering of another aspect of your essence. And
That you won't
because,
find with a noisy mind or a mind in resistance.
pardon me?
That you won't find with a noisy mind or in resistance.
No, and the thing is, Jim, what is interesting and fascinating is it's like dropping yourself into a deep well. And when you're in there, there's no fear or there's no sense of dread or anxiety. There's simply this amazing acceptance. And so your or mine encounter with others, and it could be an encounter with a situation. It could be uh, someone describing a situation or an event or inviting me to a phone meeting, whatever the case may be. But that sense of speed, I guess, is what I am now dismissing. What I once thought was very important in terms of getting somewhere, achieving something, completing something very quickly, whether it was for my own satisfaction or others. I don't see that as being, it's no longer a target. It's no longer an aspect of mastery or an aspect of being a good person. In fact, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I like when you say mastery, that kind of signifies another variation on being in charge or striving versus this dimensioned level of allowing.
Yeah. For instance, and you must feel this, if sensing and even seeing it. If I'm doing any kind of an ask, let's say I'm doing a bit of an intro on the Happiness Road Tour, what I'm finding, and it's becoming so transparent to me, that those individuals that are looking at me, not at this particular opportunity or mutual collaboration, they're looking, and 9 times out of 10, it's the bottom line. And it's the bottom line for them.
Yeah.
And as soon as...
And they want to get there too.
Before, it took me a while to get to that point that I would understand, or I would already clue in, oh, that's where they're sitting. That's their modus operandi. And it doesn't necessarily move away from that. Even though they may be talking about, this is a great endeavor and everything. It's almost as if through osmosis, I'm already feeling what it is they really want and what it is that will likely prevent them from maybe understanding or appreciating the sense of this ask.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good, we're talking about the same thing. We both know what we're talking about here. It's this it is a detachment. It's really embodying allowing, for which in that subtlety, all kinds of new things open up, including hints on what's going on in other people's world.
It's uncanny that people who I've spoken to before, that when I'm speaking to them again, the revelations that I have, and they're not necessarily dramatic, they're a little probably more subtle than not, but those subtle revelations really give away a lot about the person that you're sitting with or you're talking to. And I think that's what I'm beginning to understand Carolyn Mace's statement about being someone who is just there, because she was saying you can get to a point in your life where someone can open their mouth and say one sentence about anything, and you will have a glint, you will have a sense of their life history. You have a sense of them as a human being.
It's all frequency and vibration, isn't it? It comes out in a minute. It comes out in a second.
There's a literalness there, but again, there's as you say, that frequency or that sense or that knowing that is transmuted so instantaneously. Even I still don't know how I may have certain inklings, but I'm allowing those inklings to just be. And I imagine that with time, the capability of being able to perceive will be that much more minute. It's going to be that much more clear whatever that clarity is that I'm supposed to pick up from another person.
And thus we walk around mud puddles instead of through them at a very subtle level.
Yeah. It's very, it's really quite amazing.
Quite amusing.
Amazing.
Amazing. You broke up a
Yeah.
little.
It's amazing. Just, and the fact of the matter is there's few people, at least yet, I have a couple that I can speak of this, or even when I'm talking about it, they wouldn't understand, they wouldn't get it, they wouldn't get me. Anyway.
Well, people have been describing it since the beginning of time. A few have.
Yeah. For instance, when I go to church with my mom now, there's a speckled floor, like a concrete floor. You remember all the speckled floors of not gymnasiums, but of schools. But what I'm doing there is I can look into that floor and I'm seeing images, I'm seeing faces, because the speckles are molding themselves, or at least they're allowing me to see beyond the speckle or the dot itself. And whether this is just me imagining, it doesn't matter. I'm seeing faces, I'm seeing animal heads. And so part of my time there is spent looking past the scene. S-E-E-N. It's as if I'm going, okay, I'm here. I'm already in a sacred place. So the chances of me looking past what is the obvious is probably better there than it would be, in a pub.
A hurried sidewalk environment. Of course, it could happen there too, couldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know. Have you found that the unseen is creeping into your view?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, the answer is yes. To my, I was talking with somebody. Oh, I know who it was. It was a physicist, and he was talking about how when you step out of time, how you kind of become separate from the experience that you're in the middle of and around. You can hear things you can hear doors close or different things at different levels that are all going on simultaneously, and they're going on all at the same time, and you can hear them, but you're still separate. I don't so much have that experience per se as just I guess you would say, the serenity of the allowing experience, which just is so rich. How it shows up in specifics, yeah, I document it all the time. I mean, I just came up with the term dimensioned level of allowing. So there's hints all the time,
So are you saying there are levels of allowing? That, in other words, when you are at this level, you will be exposed to more dimensions or another dimension?
Well, yes, absolutely. What you're doing is you're going into subtlety and more subtlety and more subtlety. And my thought is that different people express it differently. Where you say, you talk about the floor and dimensions that kind of open up in that experience, if you will. I personally don't experience. I don't know, but what I'm describing and what I hear you describing is, in the months that we've been talking, there's a subtleness that's become available to you. you've been able to identify the observer where there was a time when that wasn't available to you. And,
Yeah.
and all of this comes from subtleties of allowing, the formula is law of attraction and non-resistance. I haven't had a chance to use that in a while. That's something I stumbled on quite a while ago. And because it just takes you more and more and more into the subtle, and in the subtle, allowing becomes even more evident because, again, the idea of stepping around a mud puddle instead of going through it, there's just so much evidence. What you say about Carolyn Mice, or what you said, that in just in a single utterance, you can know somebody's whole life. And see, that's all found in the subtleness of allowing, not measuring, not judging, not anything, but in that subtleness of allowing. And those dimensions just get deeper and longer and wider. And I think a little bit we express them a little bit differently. Like say the physicist talks about stepping out of time where it seems like a physical abnormality. I don't know if that's a good term. But yeah, I think there's all kinds of levels of allowing, all kinds of levels. All it does is get more subtle, more magical.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's an ease about it, isn't there?
Well, that's why I heard a term today, or this from you, that I hadn't heard before. I'm not positive I've heard it. I heard you say it twice. It had to do with your happiness tour being wasn't an activist. It was like a consultant, and I hear a shift where I think you're now more thinking about helping other people promote the happiness tours, and so there's a shift in what you originally wanted to do, and you're watching the shift occur. And I wish I could recall what the term was. I heard it twice. It's a variation on consulting for the happiness tour.
Mm-hmm. Sort of advisement.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, that's a turn. Maybe you touched on the idea last time a little bit about maybe becoming more of a business and in coaching and advising other people on how to do happiness tours.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, that's a subtle component of what started out as an idea to do this, if you will, in physicality. And now it's growing into something else, which happens to be more subtle and at the same time exponential.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing is, I have not put a label on post May 19th. In other words, I don't have a sense. I'm leaving it completely open. Someone else can come along and champion whatever the initiative in their city if they like. I don't have a sense of needing to own it at all. And if it grows with or without me, I think there would be some involvement from me, even if it was a form of coaching or consulting. I would be just as happy to just let it flourish the way it's going to flourish. I don't have, and I think that's a big shift in my path. At one time, that as you know yourself, Jim, that there's a need to own and there's a need to lay claim to and say this is mine, or I'm the this and that. I'm the founder. I'm the creator. I'm the witch. Whatever you want to use. Yeah, of course, I'm identified as the founder on the website and this kind of thing, but I never think of it in those terms. That's no longer a priority. What a priority for me is, I want this to happen for the sake of everybody who's been working on it and everybody who stands to benefit from it.
Well, and at the same time, of course, the rigidity of it needs to be done a certain way is the very opposite of the depths of allowing.
Yeah.
But what's fun is that this project is several years old by now.
Yeah.
It's been incubating and growing, and the fun part is when you let it go or let it actually become what it becomes, you're actually 2 years since the idea began, and you've got plenty of other things going on. If nothing else, far deeper levels of consciousness for which new subtleties become available as you let the last one come up and out and go. And yeah, maybe you'll be part of it in different ways and get to orchestrate components of it for people. And at the same time, you continue on and you've left something that can, quote unquote, run on its own because it's not found and determined to be run by you in a certain way. It's now open and it becomes easier to let it go and to move on and at the same time to ground what was the idea in the first place. Wonderful.
Yeah. I actually, you know how you said you stopped writing and you just went through a period where it's not a question of you were doing nothing, but you just stepped back.
Right.
And sort of allowed whatever you had worked on or brought to fruition, you just step back. And I have an incredible sense that after May 19th, I'm going to be taking a step back. There's going to be right now, for lack of anything else, I'm going to say it's going to be my rest period to just see where the divine wants to take me. Because I really, in one way, I'm not sure. I really, last year it was the Boston Marathon, which was a huge focus time and all this. This year, this is what this is. And thereafter, because as you're saying, there are more subtleties in my existence. So I don't have the actual need other than to go somewhere warm part of the year. I don't have that incredible need to take off because I am where I am.
Right.
So, and that's okay, right?
And wherever you are is where you are, and that's good.
Somehow I don't have that same, okay, this is finished. I just got to get out of here. I don't have that sense at all. I'm entirely comfortable. And that also is a new revelation for me personally.
Well, it brings a lot of peace to me for you just being in that place, just so you know.
Yeah, there isn't this, it's like a going after or already thinking where the next moment is to take me. I've been spending a lot of time focusing on that whole idea of the actuality of presence is so powerful unto itself that if you want to think ahead, you're losing the essence of now.
Right, exactly, of course. Because I was thinking ahead. You know what I was thinking is going to happen after May 19th? We're going to end up doing some talks on stages once in a while. Watch and see.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Watch and see.
Pardon me?
I said watch and see.
Yeah, watch and see. Well, now tell me where your endeavors with your group, where is it going? Do you have any new members? Are you having more clusters form? What's going on?
Well, I'm kind of in a graduation period. I've actually left that group.
Okay.
And it feels like a launching. And it happened about 3 weeks ago. My sense is that what I've been doing is what you might call lead generation. And while it's been very rich, I've been caught up in that and not doing the follow through. and I actually need to move to a whole nother level of operating. And it was a great trap, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm still kind of, it's also one of those, so much stuff going on. I mean, there's so much that I am adjusting for, and that's one of those things. I was out early every Tuesday morning, and but you know, since that's happened, I was contacted by somebody on Park Avenue that wants me, that brands athletes and does their strategies. Did I mention that?
No.
Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's big. In fact, I wrote quite an incredible article about leadership, as far as coming from your gut, coming from your inner nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm doing is I'm scrambling to get my organization set up so that I can handle the incoming, because what I've been doing is I'm still transitioning from being the writing to the person thing, but I've got to have the record keeping and I need the organization underneath me, and I won't go to crazy lengths, but I've got to have, at the very least, I have to have a calendar that works, and I got to have it pop up on my screen. Now I got one popping up on my screen, but I don't know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, I got to have that stuff working, and so I have got more to do than I know what to do with, and I've got to ground what I have instead of continuing to be out there getting more.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I'm watching things fall away as we speak, and I couldn't be more pleased. Couldn't be more pleased.
Hmm. Well, that's great. It's a good dynamic to be in, because now you are literally your own master
My own agent. Yeah.
in terms of deciding what's a priority and what's not, and what needs to be in place, what kind of infrastructure, etc.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like when I stopped writing in October, it was such a strange deal, because I was actually had been not admiring, but in a way acknowledging that I had the stability, because I don't meditate like I used to. For so many years, I meditated every day. When I get out of the shower, that's what you do, you meditate. And now I don't do that anymore. And what I had for the stability, if you will, was the writing, because I was constantly in that state of putting an article out. Maybe I wasn't writing every day, but an article every 2 weeks. I've done that. 160 is what I've got now.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a few.
Yeah.
And so when that writing stopped, and I remember being at a crossroads, like I want to write an article about momentum, because I kind of want to write one about momentum, but the cosmos was bringing me different stuff. And then all of a sudden, well, actually I wrote that article, what's it called? Reset? Or no, the Taproot by Core Resonance. That ended up being after I finished writing. It ended up being the absolute culmination of that 13 years. And while all of Core Resonance has been going on, Taproot by Core Resonance is a major product, and I never wrote the article. And then finally I wrote it. It's now been maybe a month and a half. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, I've been watching this. That's the Observer. Been watching this shift in and scintillating rhythms kind of adjust, and watching it take maybe a couple of months or 2 or 3 weeks, depending on which one it is, to kind of reshift itself and kind of set me up again. Mm-hmm. And I've got more excitement than I know what to do with, and I'm scrambling to catch it up, and I got to get these computers running right, and I know what I want, and it's a wild deal, but I got a feeling traveling and big buck consulting is coming my way, and I need to move to that level.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long process, but I'm understanding why. I was going to use the wording. I'm understanding why it's taking so long. And I don't have an issue with that taking so long, because the taking so long is actually the journey. Is actually
what?
Pardon?
That
The
takes so
taking
long
so,
is actually
the
what?
taking so long to get to whatever you want. Before, there would be likely a sense of anxiety or impatience. And I
Right.
realize now that the taking so long is exactly
How long it takes.
how long it takes. Literally, it's exactly what is allowing whatever these revelations, these subtleties to emerge. If I was going too fast, or if you were going too fast, then a lot of this knowing would not be, at least in me, would not be emerging.
Well, so we're transitioning out of the rigidity, transitioning out of resistance that has been our moniker, has been our mold, has been our patterns and habits in this world of 1018% squared, cubed, whatever is opening up, and um, you know, I guess, luck. So here's what the call becomes: is the ability to express this and experience. And this call is recorded. I'm going to put it up. I think I'm going to call it dimension level of allowing the observer. And I'll talk with you before I do, but I think I'm going to put it up on the Google Hangout and see if anybody's interested. But this next level of allowing, this next level of letting go and discovering there's safety there, is the game. Because most people, well, what do you mean let go? How can you do that? The mind's going, no friggin' way, because the mind can't fathom it. And that transition beyond and around the mind, where we're plugging into something bigger, so that the mind is willing to let go, because you're achieving it, I'm achieving it. And frankly, it's where we all have to go. We want to get plugged in like the trees are. Maybe a little fancier, because I don't think trees dance, or certain things they don't do. But I can tell you, I admire trees.
Yeah, I love trees. This is a little bit of a diversion. I don't know if you've seen any of the commercials that some of the car companies have, where the trees are portrayed as being monsters. And it's all about the car that's making its getaway. And the trees, they had snowmen that were looking like, nasty creatures. And now the latest commercial, they're trees that, they've got the branches all spooky and forbidding. And I felt so dismayed. I felt, how can you take a machine, a car, and create a hero out of that machine, and have something so natural look so ugly? It's actually it's a commercial that is a little dismaying for me.
Well, the humans in this old way of doing things, they're starting to grasp for straws. And the whole idea in part is sensationalism and that emotive tug. I don't know the ad, because I don't see any television, but
I've only seen it, when I watched a movie or something. But yeah, it's the ads are they're what I call ugly. There there's a there's been a tone of menace attributed to the trees in order for the car to look good.
well, so what's funny is, like, if you go to look at Redbox, or a place where you rent DVDs, half of the movies show somebody with a gun in their hand. Half of them, 50% of them, and more than that, they got a gun or a sword, and there's a menace thing that is huge in the world right now. In fact, I kind of wonder, if you understand law of attraction as a species, how in the world we're ever going to pull ourselves out of this, because there is so much momentum in feeding us. And true, it's all superficial in a manner of speaking.
Mhm.
And so it's feeding us in a real, I was just introduced to the idea that kids don't know that French fries come from potatoes. But what's interesting is it's just like the Donald Trump phenomena, if you will. He's learned how to incite people. He's learned how to get them excited. Yeah, he has some decent talking points a little bit. But what he does, he gets people excited. And as he gets them excited, they go, yeah, Trump's, and then they all kind of rise up. A portion of those people will wise up once they feel the feelings of this is Trump the leader, and they'll outgrow it. And what happens when they outgrow it is they start becoming exponentially contributive, because initially they're at this very base level of meshing or being in resonance with menace. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this whole menace thing, this whole murder thing, which is portrayed in films more so than in real life. In real life, murders have been going down for 20 some odd years. Phoenix Police Department police shootings have been going down for 6 years. And that's
the crime rate as such has decreased in Canada as well.
Yeah.
And, that's a fact. But it is interesting that maybe there has to be this, as you use the word, sensationalism, to just drive this just that little bit more. But I think once
just to wake up,
as Trump is, because I think what's happening is you know yourself, if you think back to a time where you didn't have the reason, but let's say you were going to a party as a young person or something, and you walk in and you don't know logically what's wrong, but you sense innately, intuitively, that something's wrong about this whole scene or about the whole situation. And I think that's exactly what happens with people who are first enamored with someone like Trump. Oh my gosh, and then as soon as you start listening a little longer, a little more intently, the unease creeps in, because I think that state of unease is a natural reaction to something that is innately got something there that's not good. I think that all of us as human beings have that sense of being able to differentiate,
to discern.
But the thing is, that moment of discernment has to come when there is that pause, when there is that that quiet, that lack of distraction. So take away the distraction of the menacing trees and the car blazing ahead and rocking through triumphantly and all this kind of stuff. And then you think back to what it was all about. And then your insides start to talk to you, as they would talk to you when you've been listening to Trump a while.
So if you look at the map of consciousness, when you're at 60 or 80 or 200 or 190 on the scale, and you bump 25 points because you've suddenly grown, where you had all this internal rage that Trump was there to enunciate or to bring to the surface for you, and then you found it to be a match for a while, and then you outgrew it. The curious part is you become exponentially a little bit more powerful as you let go of what once used to hold sway, or what once used to be the catalyst for your feeling and your living in your life, be this internal rage that he brought to the surface. And now you're going, that ain't enough. And you start moving up the map, whether ever so slowly or not, I don't know. But as you move up the map, you start to counterbalance the dumb stuff. The people, and I'm not going to make anybody wrong. Everybody's a part of it. George Bush, what's his face? Who was that guy? Cheney.
Oh, Dick Cheney. The thing is, as they're all part of the evolution.
Right.
They're all meant to be where they are in that moment in time. And yes, they will press buttons. And I think that that's the kind of people they are meant to be. But in the pressing of the buttons, they are that polar, but there's got to be a polar opposite to them. And so what is interesting here for me is, if you have someone like Trump, who is their counter? Have we seen that counter yet? is that counter in another country?
When you say counter, you mean where Trump is kind of, he's not evil. He's just
No,
kind of,
no, it's not. But there's a polar opposite, or there is somebody who is reflecting him, but perhaps is reflecting in a more positive fashion.
more useful manner. So the
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah.
I believe that is the case all through what we are here on Earth.
But you see, even more interesting than that, and so I hear what you're saying, and I agree because we need that. But what happens when you have people that, let's say they're 150 on the map of consciousness, or 207 or 210, and they outgrow that 210 and that alignment with Trump's ideals, and they bump 20 or 30 points? You see, though, that's the kind of stuff that does the counterbalancing that turns the world around. So as these individuals move from fear to just even a little bit more allowing, and as they jump up the map, they become exponential in their contribution. Not like somebody that's at 600 or 700, but the masses, so to speak, are a big part of this, and it's not like it's about 51%, but it's this wake-up call that these guys who bring up the rear, so to speak. And I'll tell you what, if Trump's the bad guy compared to 10 or 15 years ago, he's nothing compared to what Cheney and some of these other guys did 10 and 15 years ago. He's light duty by comparison.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think there's the same kind of threat.
He's trying to steal the country. But, he wants Trump on all the buildings, I'm sure, and on all the walls too.
Yeah. But I like the what you had introduced this before about Trump, the fact that he's galvanizing. He doesn't. I don't think he even realizes what his potency is. It's not in the focus that he thinks it is. His potency is coming in the fact that he's disturbing the bedrock, but even he hasn't control over how that bedrock is going to move. So in that respect, good for him.
Well, so what he's got is a whole country, the biggest country on the planet. Well, not literally, but he has a mass. I mean, how in the world could you get more attention? I mean, how in the world? You got an educated population in America. He has a lot. They talk about how much news time. Nobody gets more news time than him on the planet, I don't think, right this minute. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
So he's glorying in what he does, and he kind of starts fires to get attention. And I'm not going to make him wrong because I think everybody grows from it. I don't think he'd be a good president at all, but
no, I think though the fact that you've talked about him as being that catalyst is sort of like he's the one that's creating the spark, and where that spark's going to go is the interesting aspect to it. It may be that people might become alarmed and say, I've really got to get into the political arena. I'm not liking the list of candidates that have been here so far. Could be as just that one individual who decides to get into the race, whether obviously not now, but in future. And maybe that is the individual that is going to turn some things around for America.
well, I think that what's going to turn America around is not an individual, but people drawing new conclusions. I mean, I woke up this morning. I wonder where my notes are. I wonder where they are. I think they're right here. Get a load of this. This will be interesting. Let's see if I can help fast. So many things the humans have not done first yet. So So this was like I woke up with this. So many things that humans have not done first yet. So many things we still have not done. So very many. The sky is the limit. For example, we limit ourselves in medicine to what traditional medicine offers. There's so much innovation that is yet to be discovered because we're looking down at our shoes instead of up at the sky. There's just so, we live in rigidity. We don't understand it. We live in resistance and reactionary posturing. We don't understand it. We live in this very tiny world. And there's so much innovation available that we haven't even touched on. Mm-hmm. The sky is the limit.
Yeah.
The innovation and the possibilities, and we have to lift up our eyes and see what happens is when you move into allowing, you say, okay, I'm going to let the Happiness Road Tour do what it does. And I say I hope to be a part of it. I expect I will, and there's more.
Yeah.
Instead of it being what you're going to do, and I know what I'm going to do, and I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to wring the money out of it, or I'm going to wring the happiness out of it, or I'm going to get what I'm supposed to get. Instead, it's all open-ended.
Yeah, totally. Listen, I have a question for you before we... Sophie Tucker.
Oh!
I read the article. I loved it. And I wanted to ask you, what attracted you to the article? Like, what was, or how do you know Sophie Tucker? Is she somebody that is in your, I don't know, in your lexicon from years past?
No, everybody knows the name Sophie Tucker, but no, it could be a car, right? I mean, we don't know who Sophie Tucker is. So I found that article somehow, and obviously what the article was about to me is that she was just bigger than life. It was I think in the 20s. I don't know when she died, but I was surprised. There were some of the early recordings on the Edison not gramophone, but they were the wax things, those little coil things that spun a little bit bigger in a toilet paper roll, and the quality was surprisingly good. And that article said that she was innovative, that she did whatever it took, and when microphones came along, she adopted them where other vaudeville or other people didn't. She talked about her weight a lot. She was just bigger than life, and I actually like to acknowledge women that get out there and break the rules and pull it off. And they say she was friends with a dozen presidents and Al Capone and the rest of them.
Yeah.
With all of them and played cards with all of them.
Yeah.
What a lady.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It was fun. I love the photos are terrific too.
Yeah. I think you're the only one I sent that to. I saw that.
There's a maverick quality to her, but that's what I like in terms of being a bit of a pioneer. And in essence, where we're at now, there's a great form of pioneering going on, and that's maybe why this is so exciting. As you say, it hasn't been done before.
I'll tell you what, wait till a lot of us are thinking, oh, what are we going to do now? It's like a dead end. They're like, what are we going to do now? Oh, hope the right president gets in. We talk about allowing and the subtleties of allowing and the nuances of the nuances that start when we start learning how to allow, and it opens up. There are so many possibilities untouched. I think we've only touched what? We think this is the whole world. We've touched 1/8 of 1/10 of 1% of the possibilities. So many things have not, so many things the humans have not done first yet. The sky is the limit.
So that's the title of your next if you are going to write an article or you're going to do a presentation, I think that's a great title.
Yeah.
Great way to introduce something.
I want to spend just a little bit of time. Let's see, where is it here? I came up with another expression on the Trump thing. I wonder where it is. It's How are we going to counter the Trump effect is what I think I'm going to turn this into, because I want to start talking on that. I'm sitting here listening, talking with you and thinking, God, I need to get that started. How do we counter the Trump effect? And of course, consciousness is how we do it. Of course, we let it be, but there's some people worried that somebody like that's going to get in and become president. And I don't think it's possible. But but what has to happen is these exponential multipliers. Humans have to learn how to allow, and in allowing, discover that the rigidity keeps them away from all the possibilities.
Yeah.
Most everything has not been done yet. Most everything has not yet been done.
Yeah. You talk about that group. It's like a group that has to come together, and they may not know who is part of the group, but the group itself, the vibration, the resonance, that in itself will drive certain things to happen that I don't think, at least I don't understand how some vibrations and aspects of vibration can drive something to the point where there can be a tipping point, where something that's headed in what seems to be a fairly precarious direction, for whatever reason, something else occurs that causes that direction to turn or to slow down or to eventually die off. That, to me, is the great mystery of life.
Well, it's just like we were talking about how crime has been dropping for 20 years, according to FBI and whatever else. But the noise of the headlines says something else. So what's real isn't actually what's going on in all of the noise where all of our attention is caught up. What's real is underneath that, and the fact is crime has been going down for 20 years.
Right.
And so that just simply comes to the surface when a little more of this, you'd be surprised how much the world is held together by resistance, and I will tell you, resistance is a crummy glue. It doesn't really hold things together very well. Fear and doubt and resistance is how reality is held together as we think we know it, and it's the cheapest of glues, and it doesn't take much allowing to undermine the glue that holds reality together, which is all the noise and the racket and all the junk and the the news people trying to get their points, get their ratings, because that's what all this is. All this sensationalism is about ratings, and they keep everybody hopped up while at the same time crime continues to go down all the time.
Yeah. On a final note, I was looking at, because I did not watch the Super Bowl.
I didn't either.
But I was I did see some of the parts of some of the ads that were the Super Bowl ads. And it's interesting that the ones that are truly what everyone's saying, oh, isn't that cute and isn't that lovely? One of them is little Dachshunds, little hot dogs that are dressed with a little hot dog on top, and they're all running across the field, these little Dachshunds, to people who are dressed as the various condiments of Heinz. So obviously it's the Heinz. But the focus on the...
That would be mustard maybe, huh? Is that what it is? So is there a mustard bottle out there chasing the hot dogs?
Yeah, the mustard bottle's waiting for the little hot dog to come, the little Dachshund. But the focus is on all these little doggies, 50 to 100 of them, that are running up this wonderful green field.
They're real dogs with hot dogs on their backs or something?
Yeah. Okay. And the thing, they're real little cute little dogs. And I think that mankind, even an ad that's, whatever it's costing, if you bring it down to the bare essentials, it is all about that kindness or that goodness of that little doggy, that
the innocence, huh?
That supersedes any of the the brouhaha, the sensationalism, the the ratings, all that. Do those little doggies know about all that? None at all. And yet we humans watching that, we're going, that's what I like. So, yeah, I think you're on the right track, Jim. I mean, if there's more of us.
Contrast.
What's that?
Keep understanding the contrast.
Yeah. And so one day, isn't it going to be interesting that the ad guy who's making $1 million saying, oh, we got to get to the viewers. How are we going to get to the viewers? How are we going to drive our ratings? And they're picking ads that are the counterpoint to what they're trying to conjure up, to what they're trying to sensationalize. That's what I call polarity. That's what I call that counterpoint.
Got it.
Yet if we pointed that out, I don't know if they'd even understand. Oh no, we just did this because we want to get some more money. We want people to buy more Heinz. But when you look at the essence of the commercial, it is exactly what humanness is all about.
Well, corporations. All right, so lots of fun, huh?
Yeah.
Fun.
Good talk.
Yeah. I wanted to. I pulled up a link. I pulled up an excerpt out of Visionaries Thrive in All Times that has to do with trees. I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
It's real short.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me go back one more sentence. As we discover our divinity, we see it to be an automatic and self-fulfilling system of success, understanding, and knowing. Once we usefully harness our habitual loop and feedback system, we begin to resonate with the trees melding and feeding with the sky, planets spawning from central suns, and a cosmic smile that is our knowing in all of its totality. Our newfound momentum becomes our new plateau and the next step in our evolution as we review and plot our next experience, all the while climbing Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness. We begin to wonder what might lie beyond 1,000.
Yeah. And the very nice thing about it is you actually feel as you are in this process of discovery that you might be climbing that chart, which is it's an exhilarating but humbling experience.
That chart's really valuable. That map is very valuable.
Yeah.
We don't know where we are on it, so to speak, but we need to recognize that the less resistance, the more allowing, the more we bump up the scale, the more we bump up the scale, the more innate intelligence expresses through us with no distortion, with less distortion, and the higher we go, the less distortion, and we need to just ground innate intelligence into this dimension and change out the glue.
Yeah. We'll get that super glue.
Not glue.
Super glue. Anyway, it's been good.
All right, very nice. I'm gonna put this thing up. I'm just gonna take it like it is. I don't think you don't mind, do you? Put it in Google Hangout Plus, whatever it is, and just let it be.
Yeah, let it be. Let it be. Send me another totally off the wall article. That's good. I like those.
So I'll put okay, good. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Here, if there's something that strikes your fancy, send it my way. Have a great week.
All right, you too. Catch up later. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.